It was supposed to be a family outing, warm laughter, dinner plans, all of us together. But that night, they left me standing outside in the rain. I knocked, I called, I begged for someone to notice. Through the window, I saw their shadows moving, heard their voices. Yet no one opened the door. Cold water dripped down my face, but the sting of betrayal cut deeper than the storm. I went home drenched, silent, and changed, because while they laughed without me, I made a decision, and when they came back the next week, their keys didn't work anymore. That evening had started with promises. My daughter called earlier, saying, "We're all going out together. Be ready by 6. I set aside my knitting, put on a fresh blouse, even baked cookies for after. But when I stepped outside, umbrella in hand, their car was already full. I waved, smiling. "Wait, I'm coming." And instead, my son-in-law rolled down the window, his grin sharp. Sorry, no room. And with that, they drove away, leaving me standing at the curb as the sky opened up. Rain soaked my clothes within minutes. I tried calling, but no one answered. I stood outside my own home, clutching the doorknob, hoping they'd circle back. Through the window, I saw lights flicker, heard muffled music from a neighbor's house, but mine remained silent. When they returned hours later, arms full of takeout boxes, I thought surely someone would hand me a plate, offer a seat. But instead, my daughter brushed past me, muttering, "You're always so dramatic. We didn't forget you. You just complain too much." The words sliced deeper than the rain ever could. I spent that night sitting by the window, watching raindrops streak down the glass, pie untouched on the counter. My heart felt heavier than the storm clouds outside, but pain often turns to clarity. I remembered all the times I had opened my doors, paying their bills, watching their children, cooking meals they never thanked me for. And now, they couldn't even offer me a dry seat. The storm passed, but the hurt lingered. And in the stillness of that night, I made a quiet vow. Never again would I be left standing outside, drenched and dismissed, in a home I had built with my own hands. The locks would change, and with them, so would the balance of power in this family. The next morning, the ground was still wet, puddles shining in the pale sunlight. My coat hung by the door, heavy with the smell of rain, but what weighed on me more was the silence in the house. No one apologized. No one even mentioned what happened. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the old brass keys lying there. How many times had I opened the door for them? How many times had I waited up, making sure they came home safe, only to be treated like a burden? I picked up the phone and dialed a locksmith. "Can you replace an entire system?" I asked. "Every lock, every key?" "Yes, ma'am," the man replied. "We can install digital deadbolts, reinforced frames, smart access panels. It'll be secure." "How soon?" "Tomorrow morning." When he arrived, his van rattling with tools, I felt a rush of nerves. Was this too drastic? But then I remembered standing in the rain, their laughter drifting from inside. My resolve hardened. One by one, the locks came off. Old metal clattered to the ground. The sound was sharp, final, like the snapping of chains. The locksmith worked steadily, explaining each feature as he installed it. "No duplicates without your code. You decide who gets in." I ran my fingers along the new keypad, smooth surface glowing softly. For years, this house had been open to everyone else. My needs always last. Now, for the first time, the control sat in my hands. By evening, he handed me a single set of keys and a small card with the master code. "Keep this safe," he said. I closed my hand around the keys, their weight firm and grounding. That night, I locked the doors myself. The click of the new bolts echoed through the quiet house, not like rejection, but like protection. As I turned off the lights and climbed into bed, a calm washed over me. They had left me in the rain, believing I would always be waiting, always forgiving. But now when they returned, the house would answer only to me. 2 nights later, I heard the crunch of tires on the driveway. Their voices carried through the cold evening air, laughter loud and careless. I stayed in the living room, lights low, listening. The front door rattled. Keys jingled. A sharp metallic scrape followed, once, twice harder each time. Then came confusion. "Why isn't this working?" my son-in-law muttered. "Try again," my daughter snapped. "You're doing it wrong." More rattling. The lock stayed firm, unyielding. Finally, frustration rose in his voice. "This key doesn't fit anymore." I stood and walked to the door, my slippers silent on the hardwood floor. I waited until their voices grew louder, irritation dripping from every word. Then slowly I turned the new deadbolt from inside and opened the door just a crack. My daughter's eyes widened. "Mom, did you change the locks?" I nodded, my voice calm. "Yes, I did." Her mouth fell open. "Without telling us?" "We live here too." I shook my head. "No, you stay here because I allowed it. This is my house. My name on the deed. My money pays the bills. And after the way you treated me, standing outside in the rain while you laughed inside, I decided the locks needed to remember that." The words hung in the air, heavier than the storm clouds that had drenched me days earlier. My son-in-law scoffed, his bravado cracking. "That's ridiculous. You can't just lock us out." "I can," I replied, steady and sure, and I did. "From now on, you knock, you wait, and you respect the person who holds the keys." Silence followed. The children shifted uneasily, sensing the shift of power. My daughter glanced at the keypad, realization dawning. "So, we don't have access anymore?" she asked softly. "Not unless I choose to give it," I said. The anger drained from her face, replaced by something else. Uncertainty. Maybe even shame. I opened the door wider, just enough for them to see the glow of the new system. "The locks have changed, and so have I." With that, I closed the door again. The click of the bolt was final, echoing like a gavel in a courtroom. They stood outside in silence, just as I once had. Only this time, it wasn't me left in the rain. The fallout came quickly. By morning, my phone buzzed with messages from relatives. Word had spread. I had changed the locks and left my own family outside. Some scolded me. "How could you?" "They're your children." Others quietly applauded. "About time you stood up for yourself." They've taken you for granted too long. For once, I didn't feel shaken by their opinions. I simply sipped my coffee, the master keys resting in my palm like a quiet answer to every accusation. Later that afternoon, my daughter called. Her voice trembled, half anger, half desperation. "Mom, the kids were scared." "You embarrassed us in front of the neighbors. Why would you do this?" I let the silence stretch before answering. "Because you embarrassed me first. You left me standing in the rain like a stray. You locked me out of my own family. And that was the moment I realized I needed to remind you who built this house." She didn't respond right away. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. "We didn't think it mattered that much." "That's the problem," I said firmly. "You never thought it mattered." But respect matters. Boundaries matter. And from now on, you'll treat this house and me with both. By the end of the week, whispers shifted. Some relatives who had criticized me began to soften, realizing the deeper truth. My sister called, saying quietly, "You did what I never had the courage to do." Even in my daughter's tone began to change. She stopped demanding. She started asking if they could come by, asking if I'd like company. Asking, for the first time in years. Instead of assuming. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Every evening, as I turned the new key in the lock, a calm settled over me. The house no longer felt like a place where I was a guest in my own home. It felt like mine again. And more importantly, it felt like a place where my dignity was finally protected. 2 weeks later, there was a knock at the door. Not the impatient rattling of old keys, not the entitled push of someone who thought they had free access, but a soft, careful knock. I checked the camera and saw my daughter holding an umbrella over the children. They stood quietly, waiting. No shouting, no demands, just waiting. I opened the door slowly. My daughter's eyes searched mine. "Mom," she said softly, "can we come in?" That pause, the asking, was all I needed to hear. I stepped aside. "Yes, you may." The children rushed in first, hugging me tight. My daughter lingered at the threshold, her gaze fixed on the new keypad glowing beside the door. She exhaled, almost in defeat. "I understand now," she whispered. "We took you for granted." "We thought you'd always be there no matter how we treated you." I folded my arms. "And now?" Her voice cracked. "Now I know better. You deserve respect. You deserve gratitude. I'm sorry for leaving you out in the rain. I promise it won't happen again." I studied her face, the humility, the shame, the honesty. For the first time in years, I believed her. That evening, we ate together at my table. The children laughed, crumbs scattering, cocoa mugs steaming. My daughter cleared the plates without being asked. My son-in-law, quieter than usual, thanked me for dinner. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. As they prepared to leave, my daughter turned once more at the door. "Mom, would you ever consider giving us the new code?" I smiled faintly. "Maybe. Someday, when respect becomes as natural as turning a key." She nodded, accepting the boundary. When the door closed behind them, I leaned against it, keys cool in my hand. The rain had long since stopped, but the memory of that night remained. Only now it no longer hurt. It strengthened me. Because the locks weren't just steel. They were symbols. A reminder that respect must be earned and dignity must be defended, even from family. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly at home in my own house. In the end, it wasn't about the rain. It wasn't about wet clothes or cold skin. It was about the moment I realized that love without respect feels like standing outside, waiting for a door that never opens. Changing the locks cost me money, yes, but it gave me something priceless: peace, dignity, and the power to decide who is welcome in my home. Now, when my family visits, they knock. They wait. They remember that kindness isn't weakness, and boundaries aren't cruelty. They are reminders that respect is the true key. So let me ask you, have you ever been left out, only to take back control in a way no one expected? How did it feel when you turned the lock on your own terms? Share your story in the comments, and stay for more tales where quiet strength changes everything.